Some people walk into a room and change nothing. Others walk in, and without saying a word, everything shifts. The air grows heavier. The conversation stutters. Eyes glance, then look away. It's not about appearance. It's not about volume. It's not even about charisma. It's about energy, a presence that cannot be faked, cannot be manufactured, and cannot be ignored. Powerful energy is not about dominating others. It's not ego, and it's not loud. In fact, it's often quiet. It's still, but it carries weight. And that weight unsettles people who have spent their lives avoiding depth. Carl Jung wrote that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. When your energy carries the weight of someone who has faced theirs, it acts like a mirror. And not everyone wants to see themselves clearly. Here are the first signs that your energy is more powerful than most, and why people feel uneasy around you. First sign: people feel nervous around you without knowing why. You're not trying to intimidate anyone. You're simply present, fully present. But most people aren't used to presence. They're used to distraction, avoidance, projection. Your stillness feels like confrontation. Your silence feels like exposure. They fidget. They laugh too loudly. They fill the space with noise. It's not about you being threatening. It's about them not knowing how to stay in their own skin when someone refuses to look away. Second sign: you're often misunderstood as arrogant or too intense because you don't over-explain yourself, because you don't seek approval, because you don't dilute your truth to make others comfortable. Your energy disrupts social rituals that rely on performance. People mistake your clarity for coldness. They interpret your depth as danger. You're not trying to be intense, but when you carry your energy with self-respect, it threatens those who need you to play smaller than you are. Third sign: you walk into a room and the energy shifts. You've felt it. Before you even speak, heads turn. Some people glance and look away quickly. Some become louder. Others suddenly grow quiet. It's not about attention. It's about vibration. You carry something they can't name, a presence forged through self-awareness, pain, healing, and refusal to perform. You don't match the background noise. You interrupt it, and people feel that interruption in their nervous system. Fourth sign: people open up to you and then pull away. There's something disarming about you. People confess things to you they've never said aloud. They tell you their secrets, their regrets, their fears. They feel seen. And then, days later, they avoid you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because in your presence, they touched something real. And reality is hard to sustain when they return to a world built on surface and suppression. You didn't push them. You just didn't let them hide. Fifth sign: you don't tolerate superficiality. And it shows you have a low tolerance for small talk, fake smiles, social games. It's not that you're rude, it's that you're tuned into something deeper. Conversations that stay on the surface feel like noise to your system. This unnerves people who rely on performance and pretense to feel safe. They sense they can't manipulate your perception, and that scares them. Sixth sign: you're calm, but people sense intensity beneath it. Your composure isn't emptiness, it's density. There's a storm inside you that you've made peace with, and others can feel it. Even when you're soft-spoken, even when you're kind, there's something they can't quite place, something that makes them lean in, then flinch. It's not rage, it's rawness. You've been through things, and you carry the imprint, not as trauma, but as gravity. Seventh sign: you attract envy without trying. You don't need to show off. You don't need to compete. But still, people compare themselves to you. Your authenticity, your self-containment, your refusal to beg for approval, it highlights their own insecurities. You become a projection screen for their inadequacies, and instead of owning those feelings, they direct them at you. They call you intimidating, arrogant, distant, But what they're really saying is, you make me feel what I don't want to feel. Eighth sign, you don't follow, and that unsettles people who do. You don't fall in line. You don't conform for comfort. You have your own rhythm, your own truth, your own sense of direction, and you don't explain it. This confuses people who depend on external validation to decide who to be. They need consensus to feel secure. You are not consensus. You are conviction. And that makes them question everything they've been following. Your energy is not aggressive. It's sovereign. And sovereignty is terrifying to those who've never claimed their own. It's important to understand this isn't about superiority. This isn't about being better than anyone else. It's about recognizing that your inner work has created an energetic presence that can't be ignored. You've faced your darkness. You've held your wounds. You've walked through fires others avoid. And now, simply by existing, you reflect all of that. Powerful energy doesn't scream. It doesn't need to. It simply is. It's felt before it's heard. It's sensed before it's understood. And that's why people react. Some are drawn to you instantly. Others are repelled. Some will admire you, follow you, try to learn from you. Others will attack, belittle, try to dim what they don't understand. Your job is not to shrink for their comfort. Your job is to remain rooted in your truth. Powerful energy isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It commands awareness. It isn't about dominance, but clarity. A person with strong energy doesn't try to convince, compete, or chase. And that's what makes others uneasy. When you're no longer performing for validation, you become unpredictable to those who rely on control. They don't know how to categorize you. They can't influence you. And that makes your presence feel unsafe, not because you're dangerous, but because they can't dilute you. Let's continue exploring the signs that you carry a powerful energy, one that people feel instinctively, whether they understand it or not. Ninth sign, you see through masks, and people feel exposed. You don't just listen to words, you read between them. You catch the hesitation in someone's voice, the flicker in their eyes, the contradiction between their smile and their silence. People feel your gaze not as judgment, but as precision. And that unnerves them, because most people live with carefully constructed identities, and your energy threatens to unravel the performance, not with criticism, but with truth. People aren't afraid of you. They're afraid of being seen. 10th sign, you speak less, but your words land harder. You're not the loudest voice in the room. You don't speak just to fill silence. But when you say something, it stays with people. Your words aren't clever. They're grounded. They carry weight because they come from experience, not theory. And that weight creates discomfort in people who aren't ready for honesty. Your clarity doesn't just end the conversation. It often forces others to start one with themselves. 11th sign, you're often alone, not because you're unloved, but unmatched. Your solitude isn't loneliness, it's self-protection. You don't fear connection, you just value resonance. You'd rather be alone in truth than surrounded by noise. And this confuses people who define their worth through social belonging. They mistake your distance for rejection, your independence for superiority. But in reality, your solitude is sacred. It's the space where your energy regenerates. And only those who honor that space are allowed inside. 12th sign, you're not easily influenced, and that frustrates people. You listen, you observe, but you don't absorb everything around you. You have your own internal compass, and you trust it. This makes you resistant to manipulation, to emotional bait, to groupthink. You don't react, you respond. And that frustrates people who rely on drama, guilt, or approval seeking to steer others. They can't move you. And rather than respect that, they may resent it. Your steadiness is seen as defiance, because in a world that depends on emotional instability, groundedness feels like rebellion. 13th sign, you bring out extremes in others, love or resistance. Your presence rarely leaves people neutral. They either feel drawn to you or completely unsettled. This isn't something you try to create. It's simply a reaction to the energy you carry. You represent something they want or something they fear. You activate their longing or their avoidance. And either way, they react intensely. You're not just a person to them. You're a trigger, a mirror, a moment of truth. 14th sign, you're deeply intuitive, and people sense you can feel them. You read energy before you read words. You pick up on tension before it's spoken. You feel emotions that others haven't yet admitted to themselves. And that intuitive sensitivity gives you an edge, but also creates distance. Because people feel that you know. Even if you don't say it, they sense that you're aware. And this makes them careful, guarded, because they're not used to being felt so deeply, especially without permission. 15th sign. You make people reflect on themselves, even unintentionally. You're not trying to be anyone's teacher, you're not handing out advice, but your presence alone often makes people uncomfortable with their own choices. They begin questioning what they've normalized. They sense the contrast between your inner clarity and their inner confusion. You don't judge them, but they feel judged by their own conscience in your presence. That's the power of energetic integrity. It acts like a spotlight, even when you're silent. 16th sign. People project authority onto you, even if you don't ask for it. In group settings, people often defer to you, not because you demanded it, but because they sense steadiness in you. They trust your judgment. They follow your suggestions. You don't need to lead, but leadership finds you. And while some respect it, others resent it. Because when people feel your authority, it reminds them of their own lack of inner leadership. And that contrast breeds discomfort. 17th sign, you're not afraid to be different. And that makes people question their sameness. You don't conform just to feel accepted. You don't dilute yourself to fit in. You wear your difference like armor, not out of defiance, but because it's real. And this authenticity acts like a silent revolution in every room you enter. It reminds people of the parts of themselves they've buried to survive. And instead of awakening with you, some will resist you. Not because you're wrong, but because you're free. Powerful energy doesn't just shine. It confronts. It asks silent questions. It awakens discomfort and admiration at the same time. And it's not something you can turn off. It's who you are when you stop pretending. If these signs feel familiar, it's because you've walked through fire and came out whole. Your energy carries that memory, and others feel it, long before they understand it. But what should you do with that energy? How do you protect it without isolating yourself? And how do you use it without burning out? There's a silent cost to carrying powerful energy, not because the energy itself is a burden, but because of how the world responds to it. You feel the weight of unspoken expectations. You feel eyes on you, not just watching, but waiting for you to lead, to inspire, to fall, to make them feel something they've long avoided. You become more than yourself in the eyes of others. You become a symbol, and symbols carry projection. Carl Jung warned us about this, that the more power you carry in your unconscious, the more others will reflect their shadows onto you. Your presence becomes a mirror, and mirrors aren't always welcomed, especially in a world that survives on illusion. But power, real power, is not about domination. It's about presence, responsibility, depth. Let's continue exploring what it means to carry this kind of energy, and how it affects not just others, but your inner life as well. Powerful energy doesn't just disturb people, sometimes it isolates you. You find yourself pulling back from certain environments, not because you're antisocial, but because the frequency is off. It's like trying to breathe underwater. What used to feel comfortable now feels false. And the more honest you become, the more you feel like a foreigner in your old life. You're not better than anyone, but you've changed, and the world doesn't know what to do with your transformation. You begin to notice that you outgrow people, places, and versions of yourself quickly. Your energy moves faster now. You evolve in silence, and people don't always evolve with you. That creates distance, not drama, just space. Some people interpret that space as rejection, but you know better. You're simply not willing to shrink anymore to maintain old dynamics. There is a grief in that growth, a soft mourning for the person you used to be, the one who fit in, the one who tolerated, the one who kept the peace by dimming the fire inside. But that fire is no longer dimmable. You also begin to feel a new kind of sensitivity, not weakness, but energetic awareness. You walk into rooms and feel heaviness before anyone speaks. You talk to someone and sense they're lying, not because of evidence, but because their vibration doesn't match their words. You feel drained after surface-level conversations. You feel nauseous around manipulation. You're not being dramatic, you're just tuned in. You can't unsee what you now feel. This awareness changes how you move. You become quieter, but not smaller. You observe more, but not passively. You speak only when needed, but when you do, it cuts through the noise. Your presence becomes intentional, focused, less accessible, because you realize that not everyone deserves access to your energy. You begin to protect your peace like it's your life's work, not with aggression, but with clarity. You no longer explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer fight to be heard by those who don't listen. You no longer beg for love that feels conditional. Your boundaries become non-negotiable, not because you're guarded, but because you're sacred. That kind of energetic sovereignty intimidates people, and it's not your job to shrink so they feel safer. It's your job to stay rooted, so you remain sane. Still, there are moments of doubt, moments where you wonder, why do people pull away? Why do I feel so separate? Why can't I go back to how it was? But the truth is, the old you died quietly. The day you chose truth over comfort. The day you stopped performing. The day you said, I can't be who you want me to be. I have to be who I am. That's when your energy changed, and the world around you hasn't caught up yet. You may also notice that people start to seek your advice, even when you don't offer it. They ask you deep questions. They open up without warning. They call you wise, intimidating, different. They don't know what it is about you, but they feel it. Some admire it, others fear it, but everyone responds to it, because real energy can't be hidden. But here's the paradox. The stronger your energy becomes, the more invisible you may feel. Not because you're weak, but because few people can meet you where you are. They feel your depth, but aren't ready to go there themselves, so they turn away, or keep things light, or avoid you entirely. Don't take it personally. That distance is not rejection. It's resonance doing its job. You're vibrating in a range that filters people automatically. You don't have to force anything. What's not meant for you will fall away. And what is meant for you will recognize you instantly. The people who are meant to walk with you won't be scared of your silence. They won't flinch when you speak truth. They won't run from your intensity. They'll stand in it with you. Because they've done the work. They've faced their own shadows, and they don't need you to be less for them to feel more. By the time you fully realize the energy you carry, the world you used to know no longer feels like home. You begin to walk through life not as someone trying to belong, but as someone who understands that belonging starts from within. This shift is not ego. It's not superiority. It's alignment. You no longer move from a place of insecurity. You move from truth. Powerful energy isn't something you choose. It's something you grow into, painfully, slowly, deliberately. It comes from facing parts of yourself most people spend their whole lives avoiding. It comes from silence, from heartbreak, from the death of illusions. You've walked through fire. That fire didn't burn you. It forged you. And now you walk with that heat beneath your skin. But carrying powerful energy is not about being feared. It's about being felt. And when you're deeply felt, you become unforgettable, even to people who couldn't stay. There's a myth that powerful energy is always visible, always outspoken. But in truth, it often looks like the quiet one in the room, the one who says little, observes everything, and speaks only when it matters, the one who doesn't react because they already see the pattern, the one who doesn't chase because they trust what's meant will find them. This kind of energy isn't loud, it's grounded. It doesn't push, it pulls, and that's what unsettles people the most. You don't fight for space, you simply hold it. And that stillness makes others wonder why they feel so restless. You carry a frequency that demands presence. You carry an honesty that disarms performance. You carry a strength that doesn't need to explain itself. That is power. Not domination, but definition. Not force, but depth. And here's what happens when you finally accept the energy you carry. You stop apologizing for your intensity. You stop softening your truth to make others more comfortable. You stop performing humility when what you really carry is clarity. You let go of false modesty, because you understand that playing small is just another mask. You stop fearing your voice, because you know silence is sacred, but silence in the face of injustice is cowardice. You stop seeking consensus, because you realize that the more whole you become, the less universal your acceptance will be. You embrace solitude, not as loneliness, but as refinement. You become more selective with your time, your space, your energy. You start saying no without guilt. You start saying yes only when your body and spirit both agree. You begin to see that your presence alone is a message, that being fully yourself is the loudest truth you'll ever speak, that your energy teaches people how to treat you, even when you're silent. But most importantly, you begin to realize that your energy is medicine, not just for others, but for yourself. When you walk in alignment with it, you feel calm, clear, alive. When you suppress it, you feel anxious, confused, drained. Your job isn't to be liked, it's to be real. Your job isn't to be safe, it's to be sovereign. Your job isn't to avoid discomfort, it's to embody integrity. Not everyone will understand you. That's not a failure, that's a filter. The more authentic your energy becomes, the fewer people it resonates with. But those it does reach, it reaches deeply. You don't need millions of connections. You need aligned ones, and alignment can't be forced. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's what your energy represents, the parts of you that you've reclaimed, the shadows you've integrated, the wounds you've healed, the truth you've chosen over comfort. So if people distance themselves from you, let them. If they misinterpret your silence, let them. If they say you've changed, let them. You're not here to remain familiar. You're here to become fully alive. And yes, your energy will scare people. It will make them question their own lives, their choices, their masks. It will make them uncomfortable, not because you are dangerous, but because you are free. And freedom, real freedom, is terrifying to those who've built cages out of habits, fears, and borrowed beliefs. But your job is not to help them stay comfortable in the cage. Your job is to keep walking, keep shining, keep vibrating at the level that matches your truth. Because someone out there is waiting to feel what you carry. Someone out there needs your energy to awaken their own. Someone out there is holding back their voice until they hear yours. And if you shrink, they will too. If you pretend, they will stay asleep. But if you stand tall, If you radiate, if you hold the line, they'll rise to meet you. So stop asking what's wrong with you. Stop wondering why you feel different. You feel different because you are, because you've stepped into a level of being that few dare to claim. And now that you're here, don't turn back. Own it, live it, be it, because your energy isn't a problem. It's a frequency the world forgot it needed, and your very presence is the reminder.